Okay, guys, this is going to be our first attempt to have a lesson on a video in the new YouTube channel. And so today you are going to be writing another reflective narrative. You should have planned your reflective narrative on Friday, and then today you're actually going to write. And so as I'm getting ready to write my reflective narrative, here are the things that I'm going to be thinking about. I'm thinking about following the narrative diamond, and here's my green folder. A copy of the green folder is linked in Google Classroom, but I'm going to try and link it here on the YouTube channel if I can. But if it's not linked here on the YouTube channel, then go check out Google Classroom. So I'm going to start my narrative with an entertaining beginning, and then I'm going to move into the section where I am going to have either a critical setting or a critical object or a critical character or a combination of those. Then I'm going to start to build some suspense. And then I'm going to move into the most important part of my writing, my main event, that I'm going to stretch out to feel like slow motion. Once I'm finished with my main event, I'm going to move to my resolution and then finally to my extended ending. So as I'm thinking about all of these things whenever I'm telling my story, let's go and kind of break some of these things apart and think about what you can do in each of these sections. And so in the first section, you are going to be, or your first sentence is going to be your entertaining beginning. And so we've got several options about what our entertaining beginning can be. For an entertaining beginning, I can start my first sentence with dialogue. I can start my first sentence with a thought. With dialogue, I'm going to make sure to surround it with quotation marks. With a thought, I'm going to make sure to highlight it and make it, put it into italics. I can start my first sentence with a strong action. I can start my first sentence with some strong, specific description. Or another strategy I have is that I can start my first sentence with a sound followed by an action. Then I'm going to move into the section where I'm going to have a critical setting, a critical character, or a critical object, or a combination of those. And so as I'm moving into that section, I'm thinking about being as descriptive as possible. I'm thinking about using my 5 senses with my imagery. So I'm thinking about sight imagery. So I'm thinking about using words that describe the color, the shape, or the size. I'm thinking about sound imagery. I'm thinking about touch, so I can think about the texture of things or what things are made of, or maybe perhaps the way something smells or the way something tastes. But usually in this section, we're focusing on sight imagery, sound imagery, and then touch. We're also going to think in this section about using wow words, so not boring describing words like blue or red or nice. I'm going to use my wow words. I'm also going to think about flipping sentences. So I'm thinking about taking out the was, the were, the had, the has, and flipping those around. So I've got some strong action verbs. And I'm also going to link a second video here that shows you a second strategy on flipping sentences. And so look for that as well. And you can use that in this section as well. After you're done with your critical setting or your critical object or your critical character, it's time to build suspense. When I'm building suspense, I'm using worried thoughts to help build suspense, and I'm also using red flag words. And I've got all the red flag words linked in Google Classroom, and I'll try and link them here on the YouTube channel as well. So I'm going to be using words like all of a sudden, without warning, the next thing I knew, suddenly, in the blink of an eye. And so these words are red flag words because they grab the reader's attention and let them know that something big is coming up. And also they're a great writing strategy because they're going to act as transitions and make our writing sound really smooth. Once we're done with our suspense, we've let the reader know something big is coming, and that is our main event. In your main event, you are thinking about having all 4 parts of your main event. You're thinking about having description and imagery and all of those 5 senses that we just talked about with imagery. You're thinking about strong action. You're thinking about thoughts and feelings, and you're having a little bit of dialogue in your main event. When you're thinking about your thoughts and feelings here, remember to show me how you're feeling, not just tell me how you're feeling. And so you can show me how you're feeling by telling me what your body's doing, showing me what your body's doing. What's your heart doing? Is your heart pounding? Is it racing? Are your palms sweaty? Are your hands shaking? Are you excited? And so there's a huge smile that's spreading across your face. So you're going to show me, not just tell me. Once you're done with your main event, then you're moving on to the resolution. So what happens in your story right after your main event's over? And then finally, you're going to be thinking about your extended ending. So when I get to my extended ending, we already have some sentence frames, and these are on your graphic organizer. But just so they're a little bit easier to find and fresh in your mind, I've written them out here. So in the end, I realized my life is different now because if I had to do it all over again, I would. Also, another thing, some people are struggling with how to stretch out their extended ending to more than just one sentence. And so here's some more strategies that can help you with your extended ending. And so ask yourself, how are you feeling? What are some of the feelings that you can share with the reader? You could have a sentence like, I should have felt blank, and then tell me how you really felt. You can share some of your memories from this time. You could say in your extended ending, I'll never forget. You might focus on a wish that you had in your extended ending, or a wish that you have for the future after you learned the lesson from this specific main event. I wish. Or a decision that you've made now after you learned your lesson. What's a decision that you've made for your future? Okay. Some of you feel really confident with all of these things that we've just talked about. And so your question is, how do I take my writing to the next level once I have followed all of those strategies that we've already practiced? And so here I'm going to flash up some of the writer's moves that you can think about. Try doing a series of 3 in your writing. Try some repetition. Try some word reference. Super important. Perhaps you're going to have some alliteration. Word reference are even stronger whenever you can do a word referent with alliteration. I think somebody in their last writing said something about a monstrous machine. So a word referent, but then also some alliteration. So taking more than one of these writer's moves and tying them together. You could use an ellipsis. You can use onomatopoeias, flip sentences. We've already learned some strategies for flip sentences, but remember, I'm going to link another video in just a second that's going to show you another strategy for flipping sentences that allows you to have more of a sentence variety that we're going to talk about here in just a second. Some figurative language. So you could have some similes, a metaphor. You can exaggerate with a hyperbole. You can use some personification. And then sentence variety. Do you have a short sentence for effect? Just a 1 or a 2 word sentence? Do you have long, flowing, compound, and complex sentences? Do you have questions? Do you start your sentences in new and different ways? And that's one of the things we're going to talk about with flipping sentences. Starting your sentences with verbs as opposed to starting sentences with nouns. Okay. Now you're ready to get started, and I can't wait to read your writing. If you have any questions about the things that we've talked about today, you can comment here on the YouTube channel, or you can send me an email.